The Khoi Khoi Teacher Part 2. By Monday, St. Luke's had become a school of whispers. Students spoke in low tones, glancing over their shoulders as though the ghost might be eavesdropping. Even the teachers, who had once mocked the rumors, now avoided being alone in the hallways. The Khoi Khoi sound had returned every night for 4 straight days. It always began after lights out, slow, deliberate clicks of high heels on the concrete floor. Sometimes it circled the classrooms. Sometimes it stopped right outside the dormitories. And each time, the sound vanished whenever someone tried to investigate. Fear takes hold. During morning assembly, Principal Bako tried to put up a strong front. "These foolish rumors are disrupting learning," he barked. "Anyone caught talking about ghosts will face punishment." But his voice shook. His usual booming confidence had thinned like old paper. Behind him, the staff looked uneasy. Some stared at the ground. Others scanned the students nervously, as though expecting the ghost to appear in the crowd. When the choir began the hymn, a strange thing happened. The sound returned. Khoi, khoi, khoi. It was faint but clear, echoing from the back of the assembly ground. The singing faltered. Heads turned. Nothing. Only the mango trees swaying in the Harmattan wind. But everyone had heard it, and that was when panic became real. That afternoon, something happened that made even the teachers tremble. Mrs. Grace had gone to the staff room to retrieve her lesson notes. The room was empty. She opened her locker, humming softly to herself. Then she heard it. Khoi, khoi, khoi. Her head snapped up. The sound came from the corridor. Slow, steady, getting closer. Kato, who's there?" she stammered. No answer. Only that sound, approaching the door. Khoi, khoi, khoi. She backed away, heart pounding. The corridor was empty, but the sound was real. So real that she could feel it in her bones. Then as she reached the far end of the staff room, the sound stopped, and a whisper drifted in, soft as a dying breath. "Mrs. Grace!" she screamed. By the time the other teachers came running, she was crouched under a desk, shaking like a leaf, pointing at the empty doorway. "There! She called my name! I heard her!" The staff dragged her out and took her to the clinic. For the rest of the day, she didn't speak. That was when the teachers stopped laughing at ghost stories. That night in Blue House Dormitory, Emeka gathered his friends, Tunde, Chuka, and Ibrahim. "I can't take this anymore," Emeka said in a low voice. "Every night we hear that sound, and nobody knows what's happening." "Maybe we should just pray," Chuka muttered, clutching his Bible. "Pray and wait to die?" Emeka shot back. "No, we'll find out who's doing this. Tonight." Tunde stared at him like he'd gone mad. "You want to go near the academic block at night? Are you normal?" "It's the only way," Emeka said. "We stay awake, sneak out after lights out, and wait. If it's a ghost, we'll see it. If it's a human being, we'll catch them." Ibrahim hesitated. "What if it's really her spirit?" "Then at least we'll know what we're up against," Emeka replied grimly. After a long silence, the others agreed. Lights out came at 10 p.m. The dorms fell into uneasy silence, broken only by the distant croak of frogs and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. The 4 boys lay in their bunks pretending to sleep until the housemaster made his final rounds. Then slowly they slipped out, bare feet padding on the cold floor. They crept past the sleeping students, out through the back door of the dormitory, and into the night. The Harmattan wind was sharp, carrying the smell of dust and wet earth. The campus lay in eerie stillness, the buildings looming like dark giants under the moonlight. "God, this place looks different at night," Chuka whispered, clutching his torchlight like a weapon. "Keep quiet," Emeka hissed. "We don't want to wake the security." They made their way to the academic block. It stood in the distance, silent and ominous, its windows like empty eye sockets. They slipped inside through the back door, which creaked like something alive. The hallway stretched ahead, dark, endless, their torch beams barely cut through the blackness. For a long time there was nothing, just silence and the thud of their own hearts. Then at exactly 11:47 p.m., it began. Khoi, khoi, khoi. The boys froze. The sound was faint at first, echoing from somewhere above them. The second floor. Khoi, khoi, khoi. "Jesus," Ibrahim whispered, his voice shaking. The sound grew louder. closer, coming down the stairs. Koi, koi, koi. Emeka raised his hand, signaling the others to stay quiet. His breath came in sharp bursts. His legs trembled. The steps stopped. Silence. Then, suddenly, the sound exploded, loud and clear, right behind them. Koi, koi, koi. The boy spun around, torch beams slicing through the darkness. Nothing. Only the empty corridor stretching into blackness. Then they heard it. A whisper, soft, female. Why did you let me die? The torches flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed them whole. Someone screamed. The boys bolted, crashing through the corridor, stumbling over benches, slamming into walls. Behind them, the sound followed, faster now. Koi, 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 koi. Like someone running in heels. They didn't stop until they burst out into the night, gasping, hearts hammering like drums. They didn't look back. When they reached the dormitory, they collapsed on the floor, shaking. Nobody spoke a word, because now they knew two things for certain. One, it wasn't human. Two, it was angry. And in the distance from the dark academic block, the sound drifted again. Koi, 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 slow, taunting, as if to say, I'm not done with you. The boys didn't sleep that night. How could they? Every time they closed their eyes, they saw her, though they had never seen her face. They heard the whisper again and again. Why did you let me die? By morning, their eyes were bloodshot. They didn't talk about what happened, but their silence said everything. Still, the koi-koi sound returned the following night, and the next, and the next. When fear became the air they breathed. It wasn't just the sound anymore. Strange things began to happen in the school. One afternoon during prep, a chalkboard in SS2 class started writing by itself. The words appeared in messy strokes. She is here! The students screamed and ran out of the room. In the staff room, books fell from shelves without warning. Teachers heard footsteps behind them, only to turn and find nothing. At night, some students woke to the sound of someone breathing beside their bed, only to find empty space. Soon fear became a living thing, a shadow clinging to everyone. The staff begins to break. By the second week, the teachers were unraveling. Mr. Okafor, the librarian, stopped coming to school. He sent a message saying he was too sick to return. Mrs. Grace resigned completely, leaving behind a desk full of unmarked scripts. Even Principal Bako began to crack. His morning announcements grew shorter. His voice lost its strength. He started locking his office door during the day. One evening, the entire staff room gathered to talk. This is not ordinary, said Mr. Danjuma, his usual arrogance gone. This is something evil. Should we bring a pastor? Asked another teacher, voice trembling. Or the police? The police, Danjuma snapped. And tell them what? That a ghost is terrorizing our school? The teachers fell silent. Then Mrs. Bello, the home economics teacher, spoke in a low voice. They say ghosts only return when they have unfinished business, she said. Maybe Miss Adanna was wronged. Wronged? Bako barked, but his eyes darted nervously. She fell down the stairs. An accident. Mrs. Bello stared at him. Are you sure? Bako looked away. The students take matters into their own hands. The SS3 boys couldn't keep the secret any longer. That night, Emeka told the others what happened in the academic block. The dormitory fell silent as they listened, faces pale in the dim glow of torchlights. She spoke to us, Emeka whispered. I swear. She said, why did you let me die? Gasps rippled through the room. What does that mean? Asked a boy near the back. I don't know, Emeka said, but I think someone knows more about her death than they're saying. So what do we do? Tunde asked. Emeka hesitated. Then he said the words that sealed their fate. We find out the truth. The investigation begins. The next day, they started asking questions quietly. In the dining hall, Emeka whispered to a junior girl who had been close to Miss Adanna. Did she have enemies? He asked. The girl looked around nervously. People liked her, but she was always fighting with the principal. About what? The girl shrugged. Money, I think. Later, Ibrahim cornered a cleaner behind the science lab. Uncle, you were here that day she died? He asked. The man's face went pale. Don't talk about that, he muttered. Just leave it alone. It's not for children. Please, Ibrahim pressed. Tell us. The man glanced around, then leaned in close. She didn't just fall, he whispered. Someone pushed her. The boy stared at him, stunned. Who? Ibrahim demanded. The cleaner shook his head, fear in his eyes. If I talk, I die. Just forget. Then he walked away quickly, leaving them trembling. The whispering night. That night, the koi-koi sound didn't just echo through the hallways. It came to the dormitory. At first, it was faint, far away. Koi, koi, koi. Then louder. Koi, koi, koi. Until it was right outside the door. The boys huddled together, clutching their blankets, hearts pounding. The sound stopped. Silence. Then 3 knocks on the door. Slow, measured, knock, knock, knock. Everyone froze. Then softly a whisper seeped through the cracks. Why? Did you let me die? The room erupted in screams. Boys scrambled for the far corners, some diving under beds, others crying openly. The door didn't open. The voice didn't speak again. But the message was clear. She wasn't haunting the school anymore. She was hunting them. Secrets begin to leak. The next day, the principal called an emergency assembly. No more talk of ghosts, he thundered, though sweat glistened on his forehead. Anyone spreading rumors will be suspended. But as he spoke, something happened that made his words meaningless. On the assembly ground in front of hundreds of students, a figure appeared at the top of the staircase. A woman, wearing a blood-stained red dress, her head tilted unnaturally to one side. The sound followed her steps. Koi, koi, koi. Screams erupted. Students ran in every direction. Teachers bolted. The principal stood frozen, face as white as chalk. By the time anyone looked again, the figure was gone. But everyone had seen her. Miss Adanna had returned, and now no one could deny it. The school in chaos. By evening, parents began arriving, demanding to take their children home. The principal tried to stop them, but who would listen after what happened? The police came, but they left just as quickly, because when they entered the academic block to investigate, they came running out 5 minutes later, pale and shaking, refusing to speak. Rumors exploded. Some said the ghost was killing those who wronged her. Others claimed she wouldn't stop until the truth came out. One thing was certain. St. Luke's was no longer a school. It was a graveyard waiting for more bodies. And in the middle of it all, 4 boys sat in a dormitory, faces grim. Because now they knew what the whisper meant. Why did you let me die? It wasn't for the whole school. It was for them. The night she fell, they were there. And they had a secret too. The night after the assembly chaos, St. Luke's was a shell of itself. Most parents had taken their children home. The remaining students, mostly boarders whose families lived too far away, huddled in their dormitories like prisoners awaiting execution. The teachers locked themselves in the staff quarters, whispering frantic prayers. And through it all, the school was silent, too silent. The 4 who knew too much in Blue House dormitory, Emeka sat on his bunk, staring at the floor. Tunde paced the room like a caged animal. Chuka clutched his Bible so tightly the leather cover was tearing. Ibrahim sat in a corner, eyes vacant, lips moving in silent prayer. We can't keep running, Emeka said finally, voice low but firm. Tunde stopped pacing. What do you mean? I mean, this is about us, Emeka said, lifting his head. That night, we saw what happened. The room fell into heavy silence. They all remembered. They had never spoken of it since that day, but the memory burned like fire. The staircase, the screaming, the blood. Miss Adanna's eyes wide with shock, and the figure that pushed her. Flashback, the night of her death. It had been 2 months ago, evening prep. The 4 boys were sneaking through the corridor to steal snacks from the home economics store. They heard voices, raised, angry, coming from the top of the staircase near the principal's office. They crept closer and hid behind a wall. Principal Bako stood there, towering over Miss Adanna. His face was twisted in rage. You think you can report me to the board? He hissed. I'm tired of your corruption. she shot back. You steal school funds, you exploit teachers. Someone has to stop you. Bako's eyes went wild. You don't know who you're dealing with. And then it happened. He grabbed her arm. She struggled, shouting, "Leave me alone." The boys froze in terror. Then, one violent shove. Her heel slipped. Her scream ripped through the hall as she tumbled down the stairs. The sound of her head hitting the concrete was like a hammer blow. And then, silence. The boys stared, paralyzed. Bako turned slowly. His eyes locked on theirs in the shadows. For a second, none of them breathed. Then he spoke, voice low and deadly. "If you value your lives, you saw nothing." And then he walked away, back to the present. The memory crashed over them like a wave. Chuka was crying now. "She's after us," Ibrahim whispered. "She knows we saw. She wants us to speak. And if we don't," Tunda's voice broke, "she'll kill us." Emeka clenched his fists. "Then we tell the truth. Tonight, we go to the board chairman or the police." But before he could finish, the sound started. Koi, koi, koi. All four boys froze. The sound was inside the dormitory corridor, slow, steady, coming closer. Koi, koi, koi. The door creaked, and then softly a voice drifted in, wrapping around their souls like ice. "Why? Did you let me die?" The truth comes out. "She wants justice," Emeka shouted over the noise. "We have to tell the truth, right now." "To who?" Tunda cried. "The police are gone. Everyone is gone." Emeka grabbed a marker and scrawled on the lab wall. "Principal Bako killed her." The second he wrote it, the knocking stopped. Silence fell like a blade. The boys stared at the door, trembling, and then slowly, it opened by itself. The ghost stood there. She looked different, still broken, still bleeding, but her eyes no longer burned with rage. She stepped inside, heels clicking one last time. Koi, koi, koi. And then, in a voice soft as dust, she whispered, "Thank you." Her body began to fade, dissolving into red mist. The wind carried her away like smoke. The boys stood frozen, unable to speak. But outside in the distance, another sound began. A scream, a man's scream, from the principal's quarters. The last thing they saw that night. The boys ran toward the sound, hearts still racing. When they reached the quarters, they found the door wide open. And inside, Principal Bako, or what was left of him. His body lay sprawled on the floor, eyes bulging, mouth open in a silent cry. His throat was slashed deep, blood pooling around him like a red ocean. On the wall, written in blood, were two words, "Case closed." And from the darkness beyond, drifting on the cold Harmattan wind, came the faintest sound. Koi, koi, koi. Then silence. Morning came, but it didn't feel like morning. The sun rose over St. Luke's, painting the red soil golden, but the campus was silent, too silent. No birds chirped, no laughter from classrooms, no clatter of plates from the dining hall. St. Luke's was a graveyard. By 7 a.m., the news had spread beyond the walls. Villagers crowded outside the gates. Parents stormed in, ignoring the security guards' protests. The police returned, this time with guns, ropes, and holy water. Principal Bako's quarters became the center of attention. His body lay where it had fallen, stiff, eyes wide in terror. The message in blood, "Case closed," sent officers crossing themselves. "Who found him?" barked the police chief. The boys said nothing at first. They stood apart from the crowd, faces pale, clothes still stained with blood from Ibrahim's wound. When the questioning began, they broke. They told everything. About the night of her death, about the shove, about Bako's threat, about the koi-koi sound. The officers listened with expressions of disbelief and horror. One muttered, "God forbid." Another whispered a prayer under his breath. But when they saw the wall in the science lab with the words "Principal Bako killed her," written in his shaky handwriting, and when they saw the glass shattered from the inside, they stopped asking questions. They had enough. The story would be buried. The official report would read, "Accidental fall during confrontation." Principal took his own life out of guilt, but the boys knew the truth. By evening, the board announced St. Luke's would close indefinitely. Parents yanked their children out, refusing to take chances. The dormitories emptied, classrooms gathered dust. The smell of chalk faded from the air. Within a week, the once lively school was abandoned. Windows boarded up, gates chained. The bush crept closer, swallowing the compound like a hungry beast. But the rumors only grew. Months later, life went on, or tried to. Emeka transferred to a city school. He stopped playing football, stopped smiling. He spoke little, always staring at the ground as if afraid of what shadows might rise. Tunde's parents pulled him out of boarding school completely. He stayed indoors, curtains drawn, sleeping with lights on. His mother said sometimes she heard him whispering at night, "We should have told. We should have told." Chuka became deeply religious. He carried his Bible everywhere, even to the bathroom. He fasted for days, his once round face now hollow. Ibrahim healed from his wound, but his mind didn't. He kept hearing it, the sound of heels on tiles. Every time he walked through an empty hallway, his heart stopped, waiting for the whisper. None of them ever spoke to each other again. The bond they shared had turned into a chain of guilt, too heavy to carry together. But in the town near St. Luke's, the legend grew. They said at night, if you passed the old school fence, you could hear it. Koi, koi, koi. They said sometimes a light flickered in the empty classrooms, though there was no electricity. They said a woman in a torn red dress wandered the compound, head tilted, searching for liars. Children dared each other to go near the gate at midnight and whistle. Those who did claimed they heard a soft voice asking, "Why? Did you let me die?" 6 months later, a property developer came to inspect the abandoned school. He planned to demolish it and build a shopping complex. He came with 3 men. They laughed as they walked through the dusty classrooms, kicking broken chairs aside. "This place is cursed," one worker said nervously. "Cursed my foot," the developer scoffed. "Ghost stories to scare children. Let's check the staff quarters." They entered the principal's old quarters. The room smelled of rot and old blood. The message case closed had been scrubbed from the wall, but faint stains still lingered beneath the paint. The men laughed again, louder this time, trying to hide their unease. Then it started. Koi, koi, koi. At first they thought it was their imagination, but the sound grew louder, echoing through the empty halls. Koi, koi, koi. The workers froze. "What's that?" whispered one. The developer forced a laugh. "It's rats. Come on, let's..." The lights flickered on, but there was no electricity, and in the corner of the room, a woman stood, her red dress soaked in blood, her head hanging at an unnatural angle, her heels clicking softly against the floor as she stepped forward. Koi, koi, koi. The men ran, screaming. Only 2 made it out alive. The developer was found the next morning. His body sprawled on the same floor where Bako had died, his throat slashed, and on the wall, written in fresh blood, "Case reopened." That night, villagers passing by the old school swore they heard it again, not far away, not faint, loud. Koi, 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 koi. And then the whisper, soft as the wind but sharp as a blade. "Why? Did you let me die?"